We are super happy you're here for our workshop on enabling power grid mapping with appropriate tools. So to maybe introduce the team, we have Francois and Andreas here, and also in the room we have Benoit, Russ, and Tobias, and we are part of the team of MapYourGrid. During the first 20 minutes or so, we are going to introduce our initiative and then give you a tour of the tools we use and we provide. And then for, I hope, around 40 minutes, we are going to practice together in groups and do some power mapping.
What we want to introduce and give you a little tour of why we are doing things with MapYourGrid. First of all, as you may already know, there's climate change in action that may have unequal impact on communities and on infrastructures, particularly on power grids, while the electrification will be a very strong mean to mitigate this climate change with the end of fossil fuels. So that's why we are particularly concerned in the development of electricity, as many people in the world yet not have access to that. So low and medium income countries will have strong challenges to deploy this electrification, and where OpenStreetMap may help them. So first of all, the open data regarding a power infrastructure is crucial and unequally available. In the world, we have many initiatives, many operators already sharing their data, but it's not interoperable. And some very well-known reports show that on world continents, many countries doesn't share, appropriate their data and allow third-party software, open source software to tackle some changes of modelization and propose appropriate solutions. So that's why we're here to improve this with OpenStreetMap, with crowdsourcing, to provide not only the data, but also the structure to make it interoperable. So here is the MapYourGrid initiative. We aim to empower communities to get their electricity future on their hands and use open source software to make modelization, planning, to roll out the most resilient power infrastructure as possible. So we gather several partners together under the aim of open energy transition, but also that activist who I'm part of. It's a French cooperative for data governance, Dinartio, Jungle Bus, Infrageomatics as well, but more recently, Youth Mappers and MyOSM as well, and maybe later several other partners. And we are currently improving things and mind about enlarging the governance of the initiative. It's the first year, but I hope there will be more in the future. Why did we choose OSM? First of all, myself, I'm involved on OpenStreetMap since 15 years, and I'm completely convinced that's the right solution. It's a very strong platform, providing worldwide many interoperability solutions and very strong ontology to modelize many things like power networks. So that's really important to use OpenStreetMap in this initiative to bring people together and tackle the challenge that had appeared on maps I shown previously. So OpenStreetMap is a choice of reason, let's say, to efficiently tackle data challenges we had. Let's talk a little about power grids, power infrastructure. We also want to give you some backgrounds about what it's all about, because it can be seen as very complicated stuff. Believe me, it's not so much. We aim to provide tools to encourage people, and particularly ones who are not familiar with such infrastructures, to contribute responsibly, particularly about the things they see. We have the global representation takeout OpenInfraMap you may have heard of, you may be also using, depicting the world global infrastructures on this small scheme with very basic features. But first of all, let's contribute responsibly. Electricity is dangerous, and even if we, the more often, keep away of those infrastructures, it's dangerous, and I always remind that you shouldn't trespass the perimeters you're not invited of. So keep outside the infrastructures. You don't need to trespass. To contribute, you only need to see, and if possible, see safely. And secondly, OpenStreetMap is not intended, nor MapYourGrid initiative, to provide data useful for work planning. Dundee goals, according to what you see on OpenStreetMap, you will have issues. You will find nice surprise. So don't intend to plan works. We are not here for that. We are providing many other useful insights. Instead of planning works, There's many initiatives at country scales, call before you dig, and other things that are intended to preserve the security of the infrastructures outside of OpenStreetMap. So it's not here for that. This said, we will be focused on three main features this morning. First of all, the power plants. The more or less big places where electricity is generated. You may see those plants with many different technologies from the outside, for very far away sometimes, and on higher imagery, that's very recognizable places you will spot on higher imagery. So that's the first feature we will be focused on, to gather the knowledge of the power generation facility. Because if you don't know that, you will have planning issues, you will have also resilience issues. We see recently with Andreas regarding the Jamaican hurricane that many solar plants has been partially or completely destroyed. So we have to know where they are to make security forces and first incident response team to be on the right place. And that's really important to gather that. We have many attributes. I won't get details on the attributes, but OpenStreetMap already provide many attributes you can use to describe what it's all about, the technology, the power, the inputs, outputs, whatever. We will give you details during the contribution groups if you want. We also focus on lines, because lines are very highly visible landmarks in the landscape. So we will be particularly cautious in mapping the power lines, because it's the links between the power plants, the substations, and for the consumers as well. So that's very important links that are highly visible, so that deserve to be mapped on OpenStreetMap, obviously. And thirdly, the substations. These are also kind of complicated facilities, but highly visible landmarks as well. Big substations cover acres of lands, and you may see them for very far away. So that's something we use to map, because that's also key places in which the electricity is switched and transformed. So from the, let's say, the functional point of view of the running infrastructures for countries, it's really important to know how those places are placed in the country to prevent incidents, to make things more resilient, to preserve them from flooding, for instance, or many other incidents. So that's the three features we will be focused on: power plants, lines, and substations. There's many others actually in the power grid, but currently it's a good starting point to focus on if you want to complete the mapping of the infrastructures in some countries. So far, the MapYourGrid initiative already delivered some results, some interesting results, showing that any people is able to contribute and make relevant contribution in many places in the world. For instance, and we will give you many more insights about how we gather those figures afterwards with the tool we deployed, but we know, for instance, that already 57 mappers already use the hashtag MapYourGrid in Chanchet commands. It's also 100,000 kilometers of line that has been added. We couldn't imagine that when we were launching the initiative that we get such strong results after 1 year. So for us, it's really encouraging to improve the tools again and again and make that even more easy and responsible to contribute on. I talked about substation, approximately 6,000 of them has been edited as well. And these are the most complex stuff to be edited, so it's more easy to map a power line than a substation and components inside. So it's also relevant of the complexity level the people are able to get in to contribute in the initiative. Who use this data? Many companies actually, and some of them we don't even imagine they would, but actually they use. It's first of all grid operators. In France, we have partnership with the grid operator to gather something outside of the MapYourGrid initiative, but it exists. But it's also industrial software providers. We aim at providing the useful data for open source software because it's an ecosystem and we know it will be used responsibly. But we know that private software will use OpenStreetMap with or without complying with the license. It depends, but it exists. It's also international energy organizations, continental planners, and International Energy Association as well, some foundations, some administration. So the usage is very broad. And when we are contributing, we not only help the local community, but also some actors we may be aware of. We want to give you an insight about the tool we are deploying, because one key component of the contribution is tooling we are able to deliver to contributors. So we want to give you precise insights on all of those tools that will cover the whole contribution process, from the training to the render. So I let Andreas presenting you the training videos.
One of the important things that we did is basically, as you can see on a YouTube channel we created, is training videos. So this goes from basically 20-minute video all the way from installing JOSM to mapping your first power line, in ID as well. All of our tools, basically tutorials, in Spanish and French as well. The second thing we did is basically try and make the process as easy as possible for basically people who don't have experience. So we basically on our website created a good first lines. So it's basically lines that we've found, which let's say are relatively easy, although some are quite hard. And you can basically, as you'll see in the video, we have basically for every continent. And you can also add some, and so when you click on one, it's directly linked with either JOSM or ID, depending on which one you prefer. And basically it loads the line or teleports you to that line, so it's much, much easier for beginners. As you can see here, basically it's teleported you to that good first line, and then you can map it. And then we go to the Map It webpage, so that's also on our website, which is basically an interactive world map where we wanted to make, as I said, the process as easy and smooth as possible. And so here, for example, if you just click on a country, it's basically using an overpass query, it will load only the power infrastructure of that country. And it also works for regions, because some very big countries don't work on a national level. And we also have tooling integrated into it, such as different data sets with as hint layers. And also Osmo's quality assurance tool, which we'll be talking about a bit more. And so yeah, and you have different also in the overpass queries, you can do transmission and distribution as well as a layer. You can also do 400 kV plus if you're only interested in very high voltages. And yeah, so that's one of our, let's say, most popular pages, because it's the way that you basically go into mapping.
We wanted to talk to you about JOSM, in particular, when it comes to editors customizations that we have done. So we saw on the Map It page, we can download basically the power infrastructure data into JOSM. It looks like this when you first download it. It's a bit not extremely visual, as you can see. So to make mapping easier, we've created Map CSS, basically a visualization style that helps you go from blank lines to this. And basically it allows you to see, without having to zoom in, the different power voltages, generators, and substation types. Also, what we've done is implement different validation rules in JOSM, which prompts mappers to pay attention to some details. For instance, here, there's a line management that is missing. It's a warning, it's not an error. Note that something's missing, go ahead and add it, and then validate it. And then we are also using our hashtag MapYourGrid when we are uploading the changes.
So once we're contributing, we now intend to monitor the contribution, and that's why we obtain the figures I talked about before. So to achieve such a goal, we're not starting from scratch. We're customizing a very existing software called Projet du Mois that has been used in France to monitor projects, and we take it to the world scale. So we now observing power lines on several countries with here a very basic set of KPIs. For instance, the number of power lines added, the length, so on. But these actually serve as a debug software, because the Projet du Mois is doing the computations, and then we will be presenting the more detailed insight and focused insight of in a dedicated dashboard. But the tools give us the country view, so we can see, for instance, in France the progress, in Kazakhstan, in any country. So it already makes the computation and localized on areas we want to observe. And afterwards, we use the API to move all the useful insights, and you will see there's many more than that. On a dedicated instance, you will be able to access it online. It's completely public. So here you have the dashboard we are using. So it presents many more insights, actually, than the original Projet du Mont instance, with more focus inside on the power business, the number of substation segments, etc. Here we are on Kazakhstan. We see that there's a big increase of substation mapped, for instance, right after the initiative began in March 2025. So this kind of tool allows us to monitor and even act, improve the training, and make useful decisions in the animation and the encouragement of the contribution. And it's obviously available in any country. You can change country on the list, and it will change depending on the perimeter you select. So it's a very useful tool and very useful way of processing the contribution data, even in the history, because it's not only focused on the period we were acting, but also in the past until January 2024. We have tables for country, for continents to show the growth, to show where the community is acting, but also maps that show the difference between January in the beginning of this year and October to see how things had improved or, let's say, changed in the country with those kind of tools.
I wanted to also talk to you about the way we monitor our hashtag. So we saw we have a hashtag that's called MapYourGrid, and it basically helped us, even in the beginning, track all of the contributions, and made us see that, for instance, mappers who are outside of our core team. So we already saw 57 mappers who have mapped 15,000 kilometers of lines and 47,000 power towers. Following the hashtag, we've built scripts, and then we've also used awesome stats. And following the hashtag, this also helped us go contact mappers, tell them, come join us on Discord. Do you need help with anything? Do you have questions? And we also saw that there were sometimes mapping errors. So that made us take a critical look on our tutorials and guides, and have feedback on what was not clear enough, and then go and change it.
We already had a presentation about that yesterday, but that's a very useful tool as well. We use to compare and to monitor widely what we are doing. It's part of the diversity of tooling we want to deploy, because it's really important to have comparison means, and this is a supplementary way to observe what is happening in several countries. So also AwesomeStat is a really useful tool for that, and it's really customizable. We just used such thing. Regarding the quality assurance and health core, we also monitor something about that, and we use, first of all, the wiki to deploy a list of what we have been doing to check. There's dozens of checks actually we focus on to implement different rules, and intend to implement it on editors, but also Osmos, which is very important tools to focus on, that provide us with warnings about what's happening in any country in the world right now. We have the chance to have very broad monitoring of what's happening. So here, it's the warning we get on power lines. So for instance, on unfinished power lines, it will rise directly in Osmos, and we will be able to reuse the warnings thanks to API, in monitoring tools, in editors, in many others tools we are using. So everything should be consistent regarding that, and particularly this globe showing a global health core of quality, and it merged many indicators you see on the right to provide consistency, comprehensive view of the quality in the country. But moreover, we also intended to gather an official views, for instance, of power lines length. Operators provide in different countries the existing length of power lines, and we are comparing that to know how complete we are, just to know if we're near of the objective or completely lost behind that. On Colombia, it's really interesting because we know on highest voltage levels we are almost complete, while on the lowest one, with the tiny lines, it's very difficult to complete. So that's very useful to know where we are. So you can also browse that, because it's already included on the dashboard, but also on the website.
We've also added attributes on Map Complete. We've used existing infrastructure team, and we've added more questions about existing infrastructures that mappers can contribute to. Here, for instance, is who does operate a power line, for instance, how many cables, how many circuits, or in the instance of power towers, what's the design, who's the operator, and so on. Once we have quality data that's consistent overall, we obviously use Overpass to do queries. It's a great tool because it allows us to do simple and complex queries. Here, this is a query that basically gives you the cross-border lines of every country. Here in Colombia, you can see that there are not that many, but it's fairly easy to execute. And the power of the tool and the power of this very simple query is that if you build it up for all of the countries in the world, that gives us this interconnector map, which is all of the interconnectors, all of the cross-border lines in the world. And this is a first. And it's based solely on OpenStreetMap data.
Yep, and I suspect you're probably already aware of OpenInfraMap, but if you aren't, it's my project that I've been working on for, I literally can't remember how long now.
10 years.
Probably about 10 years. It's a kind of general map of infrastructure in OpenStreetMap. It's a vector tiles-based map, and it has real-time updates. So you can basically see what you're mapping and make the map look nice, which we all want to do, right? So it shows like if there's multiple circuits on a line, and it lets you drill down, and it's got interactivity. In some places now, it's also using Wikidata to pull more details in from Wikidata. If you click on a power plant, it will show you Wikimedia Commons photos via Wikidata and that kind of stuff. It's translated into like 12 languages now, and that translation is also reflected in the map labels because it's a vector map. So that's nice. And yeah, we've also got natural gas. To be honest, power is my main focus on this map, but I've also got telecoms, natural gas, and various other things. But obviously, those layers kind of necessarily are never going to be as complete in OpenStreetMap because you can't see them in most cases. This is, also there's a water layer, so you can see water treatment and water pipelines and stuff like that where that's available. And sometimes it's quite useful to use that in conjunction with mapping hydroelectric plants and that kind of thing.
Do you have heat networks?
No, it's something I've kind of wanted to look into adding, but as far as I know, there's not much of that in OSM anyway, and it's kind of a chicken and egg situation at that point. It's like, well, I don't really want to make a layer when it's not really being used. I think it could do with a bit more thinking about what the best tagging mechanism is on that, because the kind of heat plants are technically sit under the power plant schema. But yeah, it's something I wanted to look into, but I haven't really got very far on that.
Those are all of the tools that we've used and that we have built upon, and our goal all throughout the project was to use something that already exists and not to reinvent the wheel and create new apps and programs where there are already existing ones that work very, very well. So if we've missed something, or if you see links with other tools that we have not spoken about, do feel free to tell us.